Most of my painting is done in nature on site, what we call plein air. But there is so much information there that one has to decide what to paint and what not to paint. And also the light changes so quickly that one has to paint very fast. Really, I have no one way or one formula that I use regularly to start my painting process. My approach to painting any scenery depends on how it inspires me to paint it. I might start from the sky or from the background and proceed from there, or I just might start with general color all over the canvas. It all depends on what is in front of me and what is the best way to approach it. Because I paint plein air and the light changes so quickly, it is very important to paint very fast. So for me, it's the best way is to paint what I see and to put the information straight away there on the canvas, starting with the most important part of the painting or my interest. I use oil color even when I paint plein air. Hence, most of the time, I start with the darkest dark part of the scenery. I use a palette knife and put different colors in this darkest area of the painting. This will allow me to go lighter and lighter later on. But if I started from the background with a dark color, then it will be very difficult to keep going on a darker and darker. I will be running out of options. I do minimal drawing and I use the palette knife really to start the drawing by loading it with paint and then scrape it quite heavily on the canvas. By this way, I really draw and paint straight away. Also, I make sure that I have sorted before that my composition and the direction of the light and where are the shadows in the painting, and make sure that the point of interest or the most important part of interest is projected in a way that the light is on it and it is in a place where everyone can see straight away. As you see in this painting, I've done no drawing. All what I've done is I used the palette knife to put the foreground rocks with a very dark color. That will allow me later on to work on the center of interest, the wave, and after finishing the wave, then maybe later on I will paint the sea, then the sky, and then the foreground, and use the palette knife to shape the rocks to a better way. By starting with a very rough marks from the beginning, this will allow me to paint much more freely and not to get bogged into not ruining a very nice drawing. And it becomes much more fun to paint in this case. With this painting, because it recedes so far away in the distance, all what I have done is I started with different colors just to get an idea where is everything without really drawing very accurately. And then after that, I laid most of the color by palette knife. The same thing with this slide. I have started with no drawing, just painting with a palette knife or sometimes with wet brush and very little information. The rest is all by palette knife. And the same thing here. I decided, well, I got myself an idea where everything goes, and I started from the sky in the background. While this painting, the clouds are important for me, so I started with the clouds using the palette knife. Also, as I said before, sometimes the subject itself, or most of the time, the subject itself decide for me how to approach it. If I wanted with a lot of red in it, then I will start putting a red color all over the canvas and use the colors as a drawing at the same time. Here I have used cool colors to start the painting, and it proceeded later on from there without doing very much drawing. While this one is a warm color painting, so I started with warm colors, and I put some kind of random marks, and I started from there. In this case, for example, as you see, it is the colors are cool, and at the same time it is a kind of drawing. So minimum drawing as much as possible, and the rest is done by palette knife or with a brush. Figures in the landscape, I treat them as portrait. I start with the major figures or the most important figures and put the basic color, and then move from there to fill the rest of the painting. In this painting, I used the colors to draw, and then I left the sunlit area unpainted. Or then later on, I will put straight away the color I want without ruining it by putting another color underneath it. The same thing with this painting. I tried to put the sunlit area with a warm color, so it will eventually stands out much better than putting underneath it a cool color.